Einstein said this: everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. Everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. Churchill was of the opinion that true genius resides in the capacity for evaluation of uncertain, hazardous, and conflicting information. And my personal favorite was said by Henry Cloud, who mentioned, the natural response to evaluation is to feel judged. We have to mature to a place where we respond to it with gratitude and love feedback. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and dignitaries in attendance, to this unique training session organized as a combined effort between Division B and Division I. Let me begin this meeting by reiterating the mission statement of a Toastmasters Club. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment wherein each and every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. I know we all are going into a long weekend, and what better way to begin it with a productive, informative, and enlightening session such as this. Before proceeding further, may I request everyone who has joined us online to kindly mute your microphones so as to have a smooth, peaceful session. The Zoom master shall unmute you when required. As we are all joined virtually, I presume everybody knows fully well where their respective washrooms and exits are located and will direct themselves accordingly. May I kindly let you know, all of you, that there's a change in the agenda. Due to personal reasons, Toastmaster Linda will not be able to join us today and take you through the session, but we have another charming lady who has graciously stepped in to take her place. She is a certified life and relationship coach accredited through the International Coaching Federation with more than 10 years experience. She is also an avid public speaker and champion Toastmaster, winning first place in contests at area and division levels. She has held positions on the board of her club for more than 4 years and is presently serving as the president. A keen believer in mentorship with a passion to empower women to find their voice and share their stories, she has launched the first mentorship program in her club last year with the aim to help women fine-tune their skills in communication and dynamic thought leadership. So Toastmasters and guests, put your hands together for none other than Toastmaster Georgia Whiteley.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vimal, for that amazing introduction. I hope I live up to it. And just a little bit of an apology in advance. I am outside, I am in Cyprus, and I will have some background noise. So if you don't mind the orchestra of dogs and babies crying and people chopping their trees, I hope I can speak loudly enough for you to hear me. But I am really honored today to be here with you and to be your MC, and also to welcome some distinguished guests. I believe we have the DTM Ajita Sivan with us, and I think we will be having DTM Rania Abdul Rab joining us, and also DTM Deepa Surendaran. So thank you so much for joining us. We're very honored to have your presence with us. And when I think about evaluations, I remember my first evaluation, my first icebreaker speech. And I remember coming out of that speech thinking, I've got this, I can do this, I can be a public speaker. But then after my second and my third evaluation, I began to realize I had quite a lot to learn. I began to realize there was such things like vocal variety, gestures, pace, clarity, things I had never heard of before. And these were things I had to be willing to eat a little bit of humble pie and learn a little bit more about. So really, when I look back at my first evaluation, even though I realized it was a real ego booster, I understand now that I had a lot more to learn, and my next evaluators were much more honest and helpful than my first evaluation. So for my own experience, evaluation is so important if you're going to grow as a public speaker. And I feel that without evaluation, you don't have that mirror to reflect back to you exactly how you look and how you behave and how you come across to your audience. So that's why I'm really excited to be part of this training tonight. Also, our founder, Rolf Smedley, did say that no Toastmasters club is fulfilling in its obligation to its members unless it brings them the maximum of training in the art of constructive criticism. So constructive criticism, what is it all about? And today, my first guest I'm going to be introducing you to is an expert when it comes to this. In fact, she's a general physician by profession. She's practicing in Dubai for 15 years already. She's also a passionate Toastmaster since 2017. And currently she's the Assistant Division Director for Program Quality. And actually, she's an extremely humble woman who finds daily inspiration in the gratitude of her patients and the unconditional love of her own children. So please, can I ask you to give a very warm welcome to the Assistant Division I Director and Program Quality Director, Toastmaster, Dr. Maniba S. Ali. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Maniba.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Georgia, for that warm and wonderful welcome. I would love to thank our organizer for today's session, the Art and Science of Evaluation, the adorable Area 32 Director, Toastmaster Mariana, for giving me a chance to address you. Once again, I am Toastmaster Dr. Muniba Ali, your Assistant Division I Director for Program Quality. Dear audience, let me ask you, do you Google when you fall sick? From the smiles on your faces, which I can sense, I understand the answer. That's why I thought of sharing this with you. If you're sick and Google your symptoms, you'll get 100 diagnoses. Every sign seems to be a serious condition. For example, if you Google cough and diagnosis, you have got tuberculosis. If you Google fever and cold, well, you have got COVID and soon will be dead. If you Google itch and prognosis, anaphylactic shock or psychosis. So never Google your symptoms. Seldom it brings any wisdom. So what do? Do people need to consult a doctor when they fall sick? Well, I would love to share with you something from my personal diary. In a recent medical conference, my friend, an expert, experienced, enthusiastic young doctor, a cardiologist, he explained about how the latest non-invasive procedure he's performing to treat fibroids and prostate. His expertise is in heart, but he was explaining how he developed this non-invasive procedure to treat fibroids and prostate. And he highlighted that the record time in which he completed the procedure was 9 minutes compared to the open and invasive surgeries which take hours. But he was humble enough to tell that it came from expertise, which came from experience. He didn't forget to mention that his first venture for the same procedure took 2.5 hours. The second procedure took 2.5 hours. The third procedure took 2.5 hours. And by the time they did the 10th procedure, it was less than an hour. And with 3 to 4 years of experience, it was made possible to finish the procedure in an average time of 15 minutes. That's how doctors improve themselves, with knowledge and practice. That's how they become experts with experience. That being so, for silly sickness, you may Google, but if you're seriously ill, you should seek professional help, because doctors are professionals and experts and will give you the right prescription and treatment. Same way, if you really want to learn public speaking in a professional way, Toastmasters is the platform. Even if you Google, Toastmasters will be the answer. And there is any shortcut. Similar to what the expert doctor said, the first speech will give you palpitations with a pulse rate of over 120. But eventually, speech by speech, you will be at ease and definitely will learn to speak less and say more. Have you ever wondered why and how this works? Because you receive an instant evaluation for your speech, which gives you appreciation as well as genuine points of improvement. It definitely helps you to get your speech to the next level. To learn this art of evaluation to help yourself and the others is an important part of your Toastmasters journey. So my dear audience, my fellow Toastmasters, Be seated and brace yourself while Toastmaster Georgia, our cheerful MC, will guide you through today's workshop, the structure of today's workshop, and our trainer, our pilot, the enthusiastic DTM Furse Gotuacho, will be steering you through this wonderful journey. All the best, and over to you, Toastmaster Georgia, to prepare for the takeoff.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maniba, and thank you so much for the reminder that often when it comes to evaluation, it's often about taking the temperature just to see where you are or check your pulse. And if it's racing, take a deep breath. So now we get to the exciting part where we introduce our educational. And this is a part where we will be having question and answers later. So DTM Shalini will be taking your questions in the chat box. So please put them in there and she will be dealing with the question and answers later. And also our speakers to please keep a note of the timer. We have a timer, DTM Shamruz, look out for the timer so he can keep you on track. Now, if I remember, Rolf Schmedley said something very interesting. He said, Toastmasters are educators, whether they realize it or not. And Toastmasters is more than a club, it's actually an education. So I believe our next speaker knows all about education. In fact, he's a distinguished guest and very well trained in the art of public speaking. He's been an administrator of theater for over 30 years in Texas and China. He's currently also the co-principal for theater in Hanzhou International School. He's spoken to audiences of all ages in different countries such as India, Kenya, China, France, Mauritius, even the US. And he's also conducted trainings on educational curriculums, theater techniques, strength finders, and personality assessments. This speaker is actually passionate about the words and the power of words and how to inspire others to reach their greatest potential. And as a Toastmaster for over 3 years, he's reached the semi-finals already of the World Championships of Public Speaking in 2020 and also August 2021. And he earned District 25's Toastmaster of the Year award. He actually now lives in China and is also a future champion Advanced Toastmaster Club member in the District 85 Division Z. Could I please ask you to put your hands together for our very distinguished guest, Toastmaster Furse Gotuacho. Over to you, TM Furse.
Hello, and thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Today, we look at the art and science of evaluations. What are evaluations? Feedback, a report, a mirror, a lens. What kind of lens? Many of us wear these kinds of lenses, help us see better. What kind of lens do you look through when you give an evaluation? Beyond what we see and beyond what we hear, what do we feel? How do we help a speaker not just improve their speech, but improve their journey forward beyond Toastmasters? Isn't that why we're here? To help them outside of Toastmasters? We didn't come into Toastmasters to go through lots of pathways. We got into Toastmasters to help us in our regular life. So are we helping our speakers in their regular life? Are we personalizing this? We're going to be covering a lot of ground today. We've got a lot of time, and yet it's not going to be enough. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're seeing what we're supposed to see. So let's take a look at a couple of things, all right? We're going to take a look at this. Whoa. There's a lot of things popping up. Okay, all right. We still all here? Everybody still good? Everybody sees this? Fantastic. Good. Let's take a look at this. What do you see? Now, the first thing we have to do is put the camera back on me again. I want to ask you, What do you really see? So many times we make inferences, and there will be a time for that. There will be a time for that. But the first thing we have to do is train ourselves to really see. What are we really seeing? Without inferencing, are we seeing everything we're supposed to see? Let's go back to this group. What do you see? Tell me what you see. Go ahead. You don't even have to raise your hand. Just holler it out there.
People talking at the same time.
How do we know that?
Well, they're looking to each other.
Couldn't, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but couldn't they be looking at each other and not talking? Sort of like me and my mother-in-law, we just sort of stare at each other sometimes. I know, I probably just insulted half the room just now. I apologize. But the other half of the room is kind of like laughing, going, yeah. Okay, so how do we know that they're talking? I'm not saying they're not, but how do we know that? They're looking at each other, yes.
Hands, movement.
Hands. Good. What else? What else do you see? What else do you see that is undebatable, not up for discussion?
Food.
Listening.
Food on the table.
Food on the table. Good. What else?
A cluttered room.
A cluttered room. Why do you say cluttered?
Because there are things all around the place. It's not organized. They're into different kinds of discussions. It's like different discussions happening at the same point in time.
Okay. What points of discussion are there? What different discussions are happening?
There is an observer who's standing and listening to them on one side. There's another one on the other end.
I'm gonna interrupt you for just a second. Is it Shalini?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. I love the fact that you're enthusiastic with your ideas. This is great. How do we know he's listening?
His body language and his the position of his face and his body.
Because he's looking at them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a possibility. I just gotta tell you, Shalini, as a teacher, I got students looking at me all day.
Okay.
I'm still not sure they're paying attention. Right? I see what you're saying, though. I see everything that you're saying. But we're not sure that he's really listening. Who knows what he's looking at? Could be eyeing that little food platter. And there was another point that you made, which was not organized. Are we sure it's not organized? What tells us it's not organized? Isn't this the way that he wanted to organize it or she wanted to organize it? Does that make sense? There's a subjectivity about some of these statements, right? Is there any other statement we can make that is completely undebatable, not up for discussion? Everybody here on this call would agree. Break it down. It doesn't have to be a great discovery. What do you see?
It's a brainstorming meeting.
How do we know
Giving
that, Mark?
ideas and hearing.
Are we sure it's not just a break? Like, are we sure that it's brainstorming? Because I thought maybe they were in a meeting in the other room and they came in here because this is where they put the food and they're kind of on a break. What do you see that is completely not up for discussion?
People, we see people.
Good. We see people. How many people?
7.
Excellent. What else do we see? Completely not up for discussion. Benoit, Matthew, what do you think? What do you see? completely not up for discussion.
This is a different discussion.
Meeting.
Different
Oh, sorry,
discussions
Vinod.
going on. Different
Okay, what
discussions
tells
is
you
going
that?
on.
What tells you that?
I believe that they are having a casual meeting at a tea party after the discussion in the office. They are
What-
coming for some snack break. So they are very casual and they're just chatting around.
What tells you it's casual?
The way they are seated and they're talking to each other. I mean, it's not formal way of sitting. That's what I'm assuming, because I can see one person sitting just casually and
Which
two people
one?
are
This guy?
talking to each other. The guy at the table,
Okay, at
facing
the
towards
table.
the person who's standing. So that the way
Okay.
the person is sitting, it doesn't look like, he's sitting in a meeting for a discussion. He's not
Okay.
concentrating. It's very casual. And the two people sitting behind, they're just chit-chatting with each other, like a friendly talk. So that's what it
Okay.
looks to me.
What I'm getting at is that even a term like casual has a judgment call. Because in different places, casual could mean different things. For example, I say, this is a gesture, yes? This is a hand gesture. Is it a good one or a bad one? It's relative, isn't it? Because remember, on page 3 of the TI evaluation, you have to give a justification for the score that you give people on page 2. On page 2, you score them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because remember, these things aren't binary. It's not he did a gesture, he didn't do a gesture. It's how good were the gestures? Did the gestures engage the audience? Think about eye focus. Oftentimes, that is simply yes, no. We forget 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What gets a 1? What gets a 5? So these things that we judge must first be identified. So for example, instead of just saying this is a good gesture or a bad gesture, this is a gesture, excuse me, don't worry, I got pants on. This is a gesture that starts at the elbow. What do I mean by that? The elbow is still down at the body. Oh, this is a gesture that only uses the elbow because the wrist is immobile. The fingers are immobile. Now this gesture uses the wrist. This gesture uses the fingers. This gesture matches the voice. This gesture does not match the voice. Make sense? Now, if we can train ourselves to see more objectively, that no one can disagree that this gesture starts at the wrist, then we can move forward with a judgment about it. But first, we have to understand, what is this gesture? Is it too big or too small? That's a judgment, but I can tell you one thing for sure. It's a gesture that's behind me, isn't it? Does this make sense? So part of what we have to do in an evaluation is make sure we're really understanding what are we seeing and what are we hearing. That's going to be the very first thing we have to do as evaluators. Be able to tell a speaker, this is what I saw. This is what I heard. I'm not judging it. I'm telling you, as a mirror, this is what I saw, and this is what I heard. Then we can start to move forward. So let's take a look at a couple of things. Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, is it popping up? It's not popping up. Oh, the screen is being shared. Is that right? Is someone sharing their screen? Nope. I'm not sure why all of a sudden I lost. Sorry. Did it pop up? I have lost my slides. Am I here? Okay, I'm still on, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out why all of a sudden I have, there we go. Look at that. Everybody knows page 1. Everybody know, you're all going, yeah, way to go, dude. We can see technology is not part of your favorite thing. Shrunk on me. Everybody knows page 1. Here's my challenge for you on page 1. Write something down on page 1 that's not on page 2. What do you mean? What I mean is, on page 2, there are all these ratings. Yes, we talked about them just a second ago. You all have seen the evaluation form. I'm hoping you have one in front of you. Take a look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It talks about several things. And let's face it, on a TI evaluation, they're kind of generic, aren't they? I mean, I know some of you are thinking, oh no, each evaluation form is different, unique to the project. No, come on. 90% of this is exactly the same from project to project to project. So what's the challenge? To make it personal. The challenge is to make this generic evaluation personal to the individual whom we are committed to whom we owe our very best, to give them feedback, to help them move forward on their non-Toastmaster journey. TI encourages us. Find out what the project is. Give them feedback on the project. I think that's great, but I think you ought to go further. I think you should know for sure what's the journey they want to achieve as a Toastmaster and outside of Toastmasters. What is their goal outside of Toastmasters, and how can I give you feedback that is specific to that goal, not just to these particular elements? So we see these particular elements. Let's go back to page 1. What can we say? What can we say on page 1 that isn't on page 2? This is a challenge. Do you have to do this? No. Does Toastmaster say to do this? No. But you didn't bring me in here to tell you what you could have read in Toastmaster manual, right? Come on. You don't need me to read the manual to you or to tell you what it says in a generic evaluation. So let's take a look at some things that might be on page 1 that's not on page 2. Before we do that, a different way to think about these. Things that they do well, right? Things that they need to work on, and things to challenge them. One way that I look at this, things that they do well, these are things that they should immediately start doing on the very next speech. On the very next speech, you should do this. Why? Because you did them well. You did a good job. Do it again, do it again, do it again. I know that if you did it well this time, you're going to do well next time. So go ahead, tell them this is what you can do well in your very next speech. Now, the second one, the things to work on, it could take 2 to 3 speeches. You could probably do it on your next speech as well. It might be a very simple thing, like look at the camera, but it might also be something that might take 2 to 3 to maybe 4 times. And that's okay. It's okay to say that you've got to get better at this, but it might take 4 speeches to get there. Things don't happen overnight. The challenge. What is something to challenge your speaker on that might take 8 to 10 times? Might it take a whole pathway to get that good? Yeah. For example, I'd like to work on the resonance of your voice. we don't really talk about the resonance of the voice. We talk about vocal variety, but do we ever talk about the resonance of the voice, the depth of the voice? Not just a lower tone, but a full sounding resonant voice that we can hear all the way into the back of the room, even at a whisper. Ah, does this make sense? What are we really hearing? What are we really seeing? The challenge, something that might take 5 to 10 speeches. Doesn't make it not valuable. It's still valuable, but it's a long-term goal. Just a different way to look at it. We talked about this 1 through 5. It could be a 4. It could be a 2. How many times have you caught yourself not really understanding the difference between a 2 and a 3? How many times have you thought, oh my gosh, they're just a dynamite speaker. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Come on now, really? Yes, they're a good speaker. They impressed you, but did they really engage you completely? Did they really use eye focus to engage you? Now you're thinking, what do you mean use eye focus to engage me? Are you checking? I know, we're on Zoom. How can you check? Maybe I can't see exactly what you're doing, although right now I'm seeing a whole lot of closed cameras. Is everybody cooking dinner? Anybody there? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? I do see you. Look at that. I'm looking in the camera and I see you when you're in the back corner. Okay, how are we really engaging with the audience? With our eye focus. Did you know that you could look into the camera with your head tilted? Do you see what I mean? It's not just the eyeball, it's our demeanor with our eye focus. Engaging the audience is our primary task as a speaker. We must give our speakers the feedback they need to increase engagement at every level. Eye focus is not binary. Meaning, yes, you had eye focus. No, you didn't. You had eye focus at the beginning, but then at the end, when you got nervous about your speech, you started looking at your speech, or you started looking away. Or once you started showing your slides, you stopped looking at the camera and you started looking at the slides and not looking at the back of your head. Combination of eye focus and gestures allows me to engage my audience and yet point out what needs to be pointed out on a PowerPoint. Yes? Think about gestures again. The easiest thing to see. Are the gestures always the same? Are they always the same? Are we always doing this? Now that we've stepped out from behind the lectern, is this what we do? Or are they maybe asymmetrical? Can we say that? Yes, your gestures were asymmetrical, and that was great because it allowed you so much more variety. As opposed to, we are going to be great. Or how about this gesture? I love this gesture. Excuse me, I love making fun of this gesture. This gesture, right? Those of you who've seen me before, you know what this gesture is, right? Forklift. I'm a forklift. Beep, 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 beep. I am here to serve you. What? A message? Think about it. What do palms up really tell us? What does this really subliminally communicate to an audience? Subliminally. Say that 5 times fast. What does it communicate? I got nothing. You want to go into a speech and do this? I got nothing. I'm your new boss, your new CEO, and I'm here to tell you that you're in good hands. Really? You got nothing. Everybody's thinking you got nothing. Your hands are up. If you go to a casino, what does the dealer do? I got nothing. We have to do more. We have to train our speakers by giving them feedback on their gestures. Are their palms out? Are their palms in? Are their movements inclusive? Are their movements exclusive? Are the movements using all of the space within the Zoom space? Or as they moved in, were their hands out of camera range? Fishes going by in the aquarium. We have to be able to give our speakers all the feedback we can. And that means we've got to eyeball everything they do, including what they're doing with their hands. And that's why it's important to understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, these are things that are not on the first page. Right, remember, that's the challenge. Keep page 2 on page 2. And keep page 3. I didn't even know there was a page 3. Holy smokes, look at all that. Birdsie, I'll tell you the truth. I never printed out page 3 because I was trying to save paper. Take a look at page 3. It's huge. It's huge. Look at all that information. Well, not right now because we're going to move forward. Let's take a look at some examples. Remember I said on page 1, let's say things that are not on page 2. Let's look at some examples for what you would put on page 1 for things that they excel at, shall we? Vulnerability. You showed us how deeply you cared about the people you work with. Nowhere on page 2. And yet, if somebody tells us a story about their family, about their life, shouldn't they be rewarded for that? Shouldn't we tell them that was such a touching story? Yeah. These are some of the things that we can tell people that they do well, and they can do it again next week when they give their next speech. Let's take a look at another one. Why, you did an excellent job of speaking to us, not at us. Right? You spoke to us. Very simple to highlight. Very simple for somebody to recreate. To us, not at us. I love this one. I'm going to hold it up like a platter. Moving on. Not moving on. Now moving on. Shouldn't we reward people for their warmth? Look at that. Warmth. We have warmth. We should tell people that they're warm. I know some of you are saying, it says that we should evaluate the speech, not the speaker. Can I tell you, I think that's hogwash. Can I just tell you that's garbage? The speech, not the speaker? So does that mean we're in Toastmasters just for speeches? Not leadership quality? If we're going to help people become better leaders, they better be warm people, because no one likes to follow a jerk. Be real. How else are we supposed to give them feedback on their leadership ability? How else are we supposed to help them be better at the job that they've got 6 days out of the week if we can't give feedback on them as people? Right. I know. You could report me to Toastmaster. Go, there's this guy out there and he's telling us to look at the people, not the speech. No, I'm saying you got to do both. You got 2 eyes. Keep one eye on the speech, keep one eye on the speaker. Your energy. Don't we want to tell speakers that they have great energy? I don't think that's on page 2. Things to work on. Please elaborate on 1 or 2 stories with the details of why they are important. More details in the stories. This is something they can work on. It might take 2 to 3 speeches, but this is something they can work on. Take a look at this. A pivot point. What? What is a pivot point when you're not in basketball? A pivot point. In most speeches, there is a point where the speech starts out in one direction and then goes in another, even in a table topic. right around the time that the green light comes on, you can pivot and take a story in an opposite way. Like when you do a compare and contrast. You compare it to one thing and then you pivot. When you do a story, I started out my life like this, and then all of a sudden I met the future love of my life and poof, pivot. Maybe you can say, we can heighten that pivot point. You need a pivot point. You need to have different gestures at that pivot point. But these are important things that we got to have in our speeches. Oh. You know, on page 2, they talk about vocal variety. And just a minute ago, you guys mentioned vocal variety. I think, Mariana, I think you were talking about vocal variety. Have you ever thought about using vocal variety to heighten the pivot point? We have to give people feedback that is specific and accurate to who they are and why they might need to do that. Why might need to do that? Because sometimes when we're speaking to a group of people at our work, there are times when we're speaking to everyone, everybody did a great job, but hey, you, assistant chief, you were especially remarkable. Pivot point, shift. When you shifted from the big group to an individual and you wanted to make sure they understood just how good they were. Are they going to need to do that in your career? Yeah, absolutely. Moving forward, look at that. Resonance. That's the one I talked about. Got to work for resonance, a full voice. Not that you got to sound like, you know, a bass drum, but a full sounding voice that makes people feel like, wow, you are speaking with your entirety of your body. You are speaking with the entirety of your soul. You are speaking with the entirety of all your authenticity. You are one with your voice, and it's solid. Why is this important? You ever knocked on somebody's door and heard a dog behind the door? For example, knock, knock, knock. What'd you think? Honestly, Varun, honestly, what did you think? Right. Sirani, what did you think? Knock, knock, knock. You thought, man, that little thing is going to start nipping at me, right? And it's going to be irritating. Some of you might even have some other darker thoughts. Don't do it. SPCA will be after you. But what happens if you knock on the door? Knock, knock, knock. Whoa. Whoa, hang on. I'm going to back up a little bit. Somebody get that dog, right? There's a resonance to that voice. There's a resonance to that bark that makes us think this is serious. The same thing with when we speak. What are we really hearing? Are we hearing the stress in their voice as they speak? What are we really, really hearing? Are we hearing them stress the beginning of the sentence, but not the end of the sentence? Because the stress should be at the end of the sentence. Why? Because 90% of the time, the most important word in the sentence is towards the end. Think about poetry. The important words are at the end. If they weren't at the end, you would have stopped speaking. You would have cut the sentence short because you made your point. Are we building to the end of their sentence? I heard this speaker once. He was a terrific speaker, but he would say sentences like this. We are at the most important part of our life. We must be great. We must take care of each other. So the beginning started off so well. We must, and then we must what? What? We must what? All he needed to know is build to the end of the line and try not to stress the pronoun because this pronoun doesn't tell us as much. It'll tell us a little, but the end of the sentence, far more important. Just that little bit of feedback is going to make that individual go from good to great. He's going to be an amazing speaker. Right after I told him that you need to stress the end of the line. Anybody could have told him that, except for somebody picky like me. Let's take a look at what else we're looking at. What do you want us to do with this information? What do you want us to do with this information? This is the kind of challenge we can give an individual speaker. Not just have a point, but give us something to do. Tell us what you want us to do, even if it is an icebreaker. Listen, you know that whole thing of there are 3 different kinds of speeches. There's an informative speech, and then there's a persuasive speech, and then there's the speech you give at a eulogy, whatever. I don't think there is such a thing as an informative speech. I'm going to let you think about that for a second. Okay, second's up. I don't really think there is such a thing as an informative speech. Every speech is a persuasive speech. Every speech. Even if all you're doing is giving data to your boss. Don't you want your boss to believe you? Right? How many times have you said, boss, I've done the research. This is the data. I don't care whether you believe it or not. Well, that's probably not such a great job. If you don't care, I'd kind of like for you to care. I've asked people to give me research and give me data. I'd kind of like to have them believe in it. Otherwise, why did you give it to your boss? Instead of believing you, they believe somebody else. And now they got the promotion. And what do you got? Nothing. You do it. So even if all you're doing is giving data, your data has to persuade people that this company is on the right path. Every speech is a persuasive speech. You're giving the eulogy. What are you trying to do? Convince everybody that the guy in the ground is really a good guy, right? You're going to persuade us. It's up there because it makes us feel better. Every speech is a persuasive speech. I think. I don't know. What do I know? I don't. Such a good haircut. Find the greater meaning. What is the lesson that you can apply to work with your clients? I said this to somebody once. He did an amazing speech. This guy was a great speaker. He talked about running, that he goes running and he gets his energy up and he has all this fantastic. And I'm telling you, I saw this dude and he has great technique with his audience, even on Zoom, great technique with the audience. And I asked him ahead of time, what do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with Toastmasters after you? Well, I want to be a CEO of a bigger company. Like right now, he's like a manager of a smaller company, he wants to be CEO of a bigger company, yada, yada, yada. And I said, dude, you have great people skills. You talk to us rather than at us. Great energy. You talked about a fantastic little thing called running. And then you even talked about a little bit of mental focus as you run. Imagine if you could take that speech about running, which is a uniquely individual thing, meaning this is something that you do in your life, and you were to pull a universal truth out of it. Mental focus. Seeing things through to the end. Finish your race. Challenge yourself. Now imagine being able to motivate a group of people that work with you along the same lines as the way you motivate yourself. Apply your speech to your job. This is how you take the thing that you already do so well and then apply it, and boom, you're scaling your talent. Had another guy in my club. He wants to go into insurance business. Great. You want to know what you ought to do? Every time we throw a table topic at you, you should answer the question and then somehow apply it to insurance. Because, sir, you're going to be doing table topics your whole life over lunch, in an elevator, while you're waiting for the bus. And every single one of those people you talk to is a potential client. So let's not just talk about, so which would you prefer, a pizza or a burger? Link it somehow to the fact that both of those are going to give you more cholesterol, yada, 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 and you ought to get my insurance. I don't know because I eat both, too much of it. But he does. So what do you want outside of Toastmasters, and how can I give you feedback that moves you forward? Have you ever noticed how many people leave Toastmasters? Have you ever asked yourself why? I always ask people, why'd you join Toastmasters? But 99% of the time, it's the same answer. Except for idiots like me, most people answer, I want to be a better speaker. Really, most people do. So what then? After they become a good speaker, they finish a pathway, they leave Toastmasters? Why? I think if we can develop that kind of mentoring, if we can give the kind of evaluation that a real mentor would give that helps them on their path forward in their life, then it's not just a matter of saying, here's a hammer. Aren't you good at this hammer? Great. Now that you're good at the hammer, be off with you. No need to pay your dues. No, instead of saying that, we could say, this is a hammer and here's how you would use it in this field. Hey, next week, do another speech or do another pathway. I'll show you how to do the hammer in another way. Let's keep finding out ways to use the tools that we're getting here at Toastmasters. Ho, 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 1 through 5. Take a look at this. I know I've mentioned much of this already. Take a look at 1. Uses very distracting gestures or no gestures. Right, that's me. Now look at 5. Fully integrates physical gestures with content to deliver an exemplary speech. You know what I like telling people about their gestures? Have a set gesture for the main idea. Most people can't remember what they hear in a speech. You know what I mean? Think about the last club meeting you were at, 3 speeches. What did they talk about? Don't know. If we can get them to remember one sentence, the key sentence, the theme, the main message, if we can get them to remember that, we're in pretty good shape, don't you think? So why do we focus on just the verbal? We tell them, say it in the introduction, say it in the body, say it in the conclusion. Great, you could probably say it even more than that. But what if you had a gesture? And every time you said that word or that line or that key statement, you had a gesture. We have to care about our speakers. We have to care about our speakers. We have to give evaluations that show that we care. What if I kept doing the same gesture? What if I kept doing the same gesture every time I hit that same key point? We are going to succeed. We as a company this year are going to succeed. All of a sudden we have a visual and an oral stimulus. And let's face it, we're a very visual society. We're a very visual society. That's how we can use our gestures. So when we're rating our people and we're saying, I could only give you a 3. Well, how am I going to get to a 5? Match your gesture with what you're saying. You can have soft gestures when you speak softly, and you can have more dynamic gestures when you speak dynamically. Just a thought. Or, but wait, there's more. Interest fully engages the audience with exemplary, well-constructed content. A 5, well-constructed content. We can't just tell people, I like the structure of your speech. Really? What did you like about it? I mean, can you really identify the structure within the speech? Let's take, for example, an icebreaker. Now that we're in this whole pathways thing, and you can have 4 or 5 icebreakers, even though you've been in Toastmasters for 4 or 5 years, we can score the icebreaker, okay? Are we just giving icebreakers in chronological order? Is that really the best way to organize a speech? Is that really the best structure for a speech chronologically? Or couldn't we let it weave? Couldn't we organize somebody's life according to a theme? The foods they enjoy. They have traveled from this country to this country and moved from this place to that place. Why not talk about food in those places? isn't that still going to tell us about that individual rather than I started here and then I went there and then I went over here and then I went and did that? Oh. Come on now. Every speech is a persuasive speech. Persuade us that you're going to be fun to be around. Tell us something really cool about you. Don't worry about the beginning. We don't care. We want to know what's cool about you now. And if you can't tell us what's cool about you now, then come talk to me a week before you give the speech. I'll get to know you and I'll tell you what I think is cool about you. That's what I do with my kids all the time. The hardest question I ever ask my kids, tell me what you're good at. But you could do that to most adults too. Tell me what you're good at. I have a bachelor's degree and then I did high school and then, come on now, what are you good at? You love your kids? That's something you're good at. It's okay to say that. It's okay to give a speech about how much you love your kids. You know? These are some of the things that we can give each other feedback on, making it personal and making sure that our speakers know we are with them all the way through this Toastmaster journey. Contest is coming up, isn't it? What are we really looking at in contest? Now, the fact of the matter is, if you give a good speech, the contest will take care of itself. But just in case, you got to look at all of that. Again, what are you really looking at and what are you really seeing? What are you really looking at and what are you really seeing? So now we're all going to watch a speech. Not our gifted speaker who's coming up here in just a few minutes, but I'm going to show you my friend. This is my friend Tom. Now, my friend Tom, he just opened up a restaurant. Okay, he just took over being a manager of a restaurant. So he's kind of like, I'm opening it up and I'm going to name it. So here's my friend Tom Morrow. I know, I thought that was pretty cute. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is to pick one of the categories in the evaluation form, just one. Pick gestures, pitch organization, pitch vocal variety. I want you to pick one and score Tom, thank you timer, score Tom according to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that one thing. I want you to tell Tom something that he did well and something that you think Tom can do better within that category. I know it's kind of a challenge. I'm going to try to keep you within the category. So this is my friend Tom Morrow, and he has just opened up a restaurant and he's going to give a speech about talking to his customers because he's not really good about talking to customers. I mean, he didn't have a career talking to people before, but now he's in a business where he has to talk to people. You know, like when the owner comes out and says, hi, how's the meal? So everybody ready? Everybody has their evaluation forms. Please welcome to the stage, Tom Morrow. Hello, I'm Tom, and thank you for letting me be here today. I want to tell you that I just opened up a restaurant, and I want to be better. I opened up the restaurant and I named it Cecilia because that's my mother's name. And I want my mother to really be proud because she meant so much to me. And the recipes that I have in the restaurant are her recipes because she was such a great cook growing up. So I wanna be the kind of person that my parents were like when I was growing up, where my mother had these great recipes and my dad was always so friendly, and he would meet my friends and he would invite my friends over for dinner. And I just remember it was a really good time in my life. And I want my customers to all feel just like my friends did when they, when they came over for dinner. So I that's what I want. Whoa. Is that my time? Okay, thank you for listening to me. My name is Tom Morrow. Yes, my parents had a really good sense of humor. Thank you. All right, very good. Great job, Tom, very good. He's gonna give that speech again tomorrow. Okay, who'd like to evaluate Tom? Something that he did well and something that he has an opportunity to grow. Yes, I'm challenging you to make it personal. I'm challenging you to stay within one category on page 2 with elements clearly described on page 3. Who'd like to go first? I think there's only 3 of us here. Mariana, Benoit, I think it's just 3 of us. Oh, Mariana just moved. Got a little scared there. I thought, oh. Kalpana Arvind, is that right? Kalpana, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Long time listener, first time caller? Great.
Okay.
Kalpana, what do you have to say about Tom? And you don't have to fill up 3 minutes. You can give us like 30 seconds or 1 minute. Okay.
Mr. Tom, he was very good with his eye contact. He was having his eyes open in his expressions, and he was very eager to express that he is the owner of the restaurant. He opened it, and he was having the interest in expressing his ideas that I have opened the restaurant and I want all of you to come. And there is an invite in his eyes. So I felt much connected with him, and I want to come visit his restaurant and enjoy with him. So that is one. For the recommendation, I can say he had his shoulders shrugged, like bending down. So he can keep his shoulders up, feeling confident, and he can say, all of you, welcome to my restaurant, and it's going to be wonderful. So, we have tasty, delicious food for you. So if you come and taste, you can enjoy it. It's going to be healthy as well. He was using hand gestures, but he could have his shoulders up instead of having down. So this is what I would recommend. Just one.
Excellent. Give her a round of applause. Well done, madam. Well done. I really liked how you talked about his eyes being inviting. No one's ever said anything about my eyes before. I mean, Tom's eyes, just really, we're 2 different people. It's one of the beautiful things about being schizophrenic. No, so I don't know which joke. I just irritated more people on that one or the mother-in-law joke. Okay, so I appreciated how you mentioned that, and you talked about the shoulders, and you even demonstrated the shoulders, right? And how he's going to invite people at the table. Great job. Can I talk about shoulders real quick? It is key. In gesturing, the shoulders are key. The good gestures begin at the shoulders. I mean, quite literally, the shoulders are between the brain and the hand. The message goes through the shoulder. And yet we forget about the shoulders, right? We're right there at the elbow, forklift, beep, 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 right? Yeah, everybody remember that? So the idea that you mentioned the shoulders, key. If you can help a speaker understand the presence of their shoulders, huge. Because all of a sudden, when they gestures are immense. Just because they're targeting your shoulders. Well done. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Well done. Next. Who would like to go next? Wow. Was that too much? It's too much. It's too much. Isn't it? We're close to Halloween. You always know when you're close to Halloween. The kids like, and of course the stores with all the candy. That's ridiculous. Blood sugar spiking. Bindu? Are you there, Bindu? Bindu, if you're there, move some furniture. Okay, seance. Bindu, would you like to try an evaluation? I don't mean to put you on the spot. Then again, I did. It doesn't say that you're muted, but it sounds like you're muted. I can't quite hear you. I think I can read your lips though. I think you said that Tom Morrow was a really cute individual. Is that your husband back there? Sorry, just a joke. Go and try that again, Bindu.
Probably Bindu can try removing the headset and it may work.
The headset? Okay. You want to give that a shot, Bindu? Move the headset.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Keep going.
Yes, I would like to say that Tom was quite, he did explain himself about his restaurant very well, but he was quite submissive and as earlier mentioned that, you know, his shoulders were drooping down and it was looking like he was quite a little bit, some fear was there in him. So if he could activate and take away that fear and speak more freely and use his gestures and, you know, talk more with his hands and all and explain about what he wanted to say, that would add value to his whatever message he's trying to give it to us. And people will also like to hear him with some actions. So that will add value to whatever he would like to convey his message towards us. That would help him a lot. That's what I felt so.
Excellent. Give her a round of applause. Nice job. Bindu, I like the energy that you gave with that evaluation. That's very positive, right? When we give evaluations, any speech, and I know I'm going to get very, I don't know, it's going to get very abstract here in about 5 seconds. When we speak, I believe it's about energy. You know, it's about being able to transfer your energy to somebody else, to an audience. And what you just did there, Bindu, was transfer your energy to the speaker. And I liked your ideas about the gestures, and then you built on the prior evaluation, talking about the shoulders. You built on that, you added on that. That was terrific. I also like what you said about Tom being such a handsome individual. I think that was probably the best piece of evaluation you gave. That's terrific. That's good. That's good. I like that. I think we should write that down. Excellent. Who else would like to give one? Karima.
I could see Toastmaster Avil Pinto raising his hand.
Oh, yes, thank you. I beg your pardon. Avil Pinto?
Yes.
Am I saying that right? Excellent.
Yes, absolutely.
Toastmaster
Am
Pinto.
I loud and clear?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just messing with you. Sorry,
Thank you.
Avil. I know. That
Thank
was
you.
like, what are you doing? You got to remember, it's past midnight here. I get a little wonky. Okay, go ahead, Avil.
Awesome. What I loved in Tom's speech is he connected with his personal story. He was very emotional to connect his mom's recipe to bring into reality, which somehow connected to me. And connecting with Toastmaster Kalpana and what Bindu said, the energy and the body language, which is the gestures, he lacked. Okay. And he could have been used. One area for improvement is the voice modulation. When he said, my friends came and ate and they kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. Instead, they kept coming, they kept coming. So that would have added more flavor to his message. And that would have built more curiosity in me to come and taste those recipes in the restaurant. Thank you.
Oh, that was, did you hear that, Tom? More energy. Oh, that's great, Avil. Great. I think the only word I really heard you say was, I love it. Okay, no, Avil, that was terrific. I love your energy, Avil. Again, your energy, and then you demonstrated the build in intensity. Perfect thing to put on page 1, right? Because they don't talk about that on page 2. That build in intensity that you could have, and that was terrific. I liked that. And then you said some magical words that you would come eat at the restaurant, right? To build the energy to get me to come eat at the restaurant, that you would be more likely to. Tying the speech to the objectives that they have in their life. Not just the objectives of the project, but the objectives they have in their life. Sir, nailed it. Bing! Fantastic. I think everyone was able to identify some very key things, and everyone was able to channel some things into what Tom would need to be successful in real life. And ultimately, that's what we're all here for. Ultimately. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take much to ask someone what is it that they want to achieve. Like the next speaker, the next target speaker. And I asked her, right? What do you want to achieve outside Toastmasters? To be a speaker. So when we give her evaluation here in just a few moments, that's what we got to think about. Not just the speech that she's going to give, but where she is on her journey. And how do we encourage her to continue on that journey? Because that's what's going to keep her coming back. Because now she's engaged. Now she's got people here who care about her as an individual and not just a speaker. Yes? It's not that we've given her some tools and now she can go on with life. It's that we keep showing her how to keep using those tools by making these evaluations specific, we make them personal, and we're accurate. We have to get away from those broad stroke evaluations where we say, oh, you're so good. I can't imagine being as good as you are. And I'm not saying they're not good. But what was it about their speech that was so good? Can you pinpoint it? Was it because when they spoke, they could speak privately and to a large group? Because even if you're in Zoom and there's only one microphone, if I have an audience of one person, I will speak to you one way. If I have an audience of 5 to 10, I'll speak to you another way. If I have an audience of 25, how many are on this call? 46. 46, then I'm probably speaking to you this way. But even if it's a whisper, it's still a group. As opposed to, well, hey, how you doing? How you doing? You all right? Yeah. Hey, listen, I really enjoyed your feedback. Because your feedback to Tom, it was personal. That was good. See, that's me one-on-one, right? Because if I started speaking like this to Avel when there's only 2 of us, he'd be like, Ferzi, what's wrong with you? Just talk to me. Make it personal, right? So we have to tailor everything when we speak as speakers, and when we give evaluations, we can acknowledge that. We can acknowledge that in the speaker and go one more step. As evaluators, you can speak directly to the speaker. This is what you need, but you can also speak to the group. Hey, everybody, one of the things that Avil did so well was yada, yada, yada. And I think we could all benefit. When Kalpana talked about the eyes and inviting, I think this is something we could all do as speakers. So thank you, Tom, for demonstrating that. Thank you, Kalpana, for talking to everybody about that. And this could be on everybody's to-do list for their very next speech, right? We can make a lesson out of it, even 30 seconds worth, to make sure that the entire group is engaged into what you're talking about. And I'm not saying that just because I have a bias, because I'm a teacher and I got to make sure that everyone learns. But there is a group of people in the room. It's not just the speaker, and we have to engage them. Why? Because an evaluation is a speech. It's an impromptu speech, sort of, kind of, yeah? And it's a persuasive speech. Remember that. We're trying to persuade people. We're trying to persuade people to do the right thing the next time around. So I hope all of these different things put together start to give you something to work on. I hope that you can see how we can all be a little bit better with what we're really seeing, what we're really hearing. Are we really hearing the speakers hit the ends of the words? You know, when it says voice clarity, is it really clear? Are we really hearing the ends of the words? Or maybe we could give them feedback like, when you had those really emotional moments, lengthen the vowel sounds. Vowels, consonants, they do different things. Vowels, consonants, they do different things. Vowels communicate emotion. Consonants communicate thought, rational, logic. So if it's a logical speech, you know, logos, right? Hit the consonants. But if you're using pathos, an emotional argument, a story about your mother's cooking, lengthen the vowel sounds. Would that be on page 2 or page 1? As long as you care about the speaker, that's the most important thing. Because remember, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what's going to keep them coming back, because you cared. We can all do that. Doesn't matter whether you're on your icebreaker or you're on your 5th pathway. If you care, the speaker's going to appreciate it. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Forsey, for that informative educational. I think we've all been blown away with the ideas you've been giving us today, and it's just such an experience to see and witness how you deliver your educational. It's a journey, and I found that fabulous. I've learned about gestures, exclusive, inclusive. I've heard about eye focus, pivot. I had never heard of that. It's a total new concept to me. Keeping it personal. Authenticity, such authenticity. Did everybody learn something today? Can you put your hand up if you learned something today? Yes, absolutely. It was a fabulous educational. And especially, I love the emphasis on listening. And I can see how well you were listening to your speaker at the time and how you're showing us how to use our ears. And in fact, our founder, Ralph Smedley, said that real communication is impossible without listening. So that is something that is a big takeaway for me. And I wonder if everybody has something like that to take away today. So without further ado, I want to move on to a very exciting part of this meeting where we get to experience an evaluation. We get to experience a speaker who's going to be evaluated. And this is a time now that I can pass on to an expert who's going to lead us through this part of the program. Now, this person joined Toastmasters in 2009. She's a distinguished Toastmaster in the traditional program originally, and now she's working through pathways. She's originally from Mumbai, India, and she's living in the UAE for more than 2 decades. So she's basically become an Emirati. And she's currently serving as VPM for Emirates Group Toastmasters Club and VPPR for Emirates Orators Toastmasters Club. I'm really excited to introduce you the delightful and distinguished Toastmaster, DTM Shalini. Over to you, DTM Shalini.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Georgia. That was a wonderful introduction. And if I may summarize what distinguished Toastmaster Furse said in very few words, this is what I have to say. You made me use my eyes with my lens to see things more better, more objectively, and to speak with more resonance, because I am excited to be here this evening. And I know that you spoke not at us, but you spoke to us, and you amplified the pivot points, which was something new and I really didn't know about. Though you say you've invented it, but for me it's something totally new, and I really loved it. And the icing on of your entire session was, they don't care how much you know, but they want to know how much you care. This is the very brief that I could gather from this beautiful, persuasive, informative, motivational session that you had, and we are so thankful that we were able to attend it from here. Now, to see how we have imbibed all the various points that you've given us, and see how we're going to bring it into fruition, we have something exciting. We have a speaker who will be delivering her speech, and we also have 3 evaluators who will be evaluating the speaker's speech. I have messaged the evaluators so they know that they're going to be evaluating her speech. Before I introduce our mystery speaker or our speaker, let me tell you something about her. This Toastmaster says she was made in Pakistan, assembled in the UAE, and joined Toastmasters in 2014. Why? Because she wanted to see her picture in the local magazine. And lo, she is now serving as the VPE for Be Bold for Change Toastmasters Club and the Assistant Area Director for Program Quality, Area 32, Division I. And today she will be attempting her speech from the Visionary Communication track part. The project speech is on evaluation and feedback. Evaluators, please note, the purpose of her speech is for the member to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback to a second speech. The purpose of the speech is for the member to present a speech and receive feedback from the evaluator. The time, 5 to 7 minutes. Before I bring Toastmaster Mahar onto the stage, onto the screen, this is the speech title, Toastmaster Mahar, back to your manufacturer settings. Back to your manufacturer settings, Toastmaster Mahar. You are muted, Mahar.
Sorry, thank you, DTM Shalini. So I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think of me? What do you see when you look at me? I know, you all think I'm beautiful. Thank you very much. But what do you see when you look at yourselves? I had a chance of asking this question a few years back to a group of students in high school, around 17 to 18 years. And I asked them a question: how many of you think you are beautiful? No one raised their hand. I asked them, how many of you think you can paint. A few people raised their hands. And then I asked them, how many of you can dance? And again, no one raised their hands. It's amazing because if I were to ask that question to a group of 5-year-olds, everyone's hand will be raised high because they think that they're all beautiful, they think they all can dance, and they think they all can draw. So what happened to us as adults? When did we lose that default setting, that manufacturer setting of being fearless and bold and confident? When did that happen? How did that happen? I'll tell you how it started with me. So back in the 1990s, I was a very cute little child, demonstrated here. I hope you can see me. I'm a very beautiful little child. This was the first picture I took for school. Not very excited to start school, but it was a good picture. A few years after this picture, when I was maybe in the 1st grade, I think, or 2nd grade, I took another picture. And before taking this picture, I was told by an adult in my family that my lips were too fat and I should always try to purse my lips so they look nice on camera. And so you have this picture of me. Where are you, picture? Oops. That's the picture. You see the little girl there? That's me pursing her lips right over here because I thought my lips were too big, or I was told my lips were too big. If only that adult could read the future and know that today, big lips are actually very beautiful, as demonstrated by Kylie Jenner and her sisters. That was when I lost my default setting of being fearless, of being confident. And I started downloading people's thoughts. I started downloading viruses that messed with my default manufacturer setting. A few years after that, again, I'm still in school. I do not like computer science. I never liked computer science, and I hated it more because of my teacher. So this teacher, she got very angry at me and she said, "You're not good for anything. I think, why don't you should tell your parents that you want to leave school and get married." Okay, ma'am, I don't want to be married, but I just don't like your class. Now that's what I would have liked to say, but that's what I said to myself. And that was another virus that I downloaded from that teacher. And today, because of that comment, I didn't really finish school. I did not go to university because I didn't think I was good enough for anything. Another virus downloaded, and that's when I lost my default manufacturer setting. A few years, I'm now an adult. I'm overweight, as you can see, and I want to lose weight. I've always wanted to lose weight. And every time I do, I lose a kilo, I put on 5. I lose 5, I put on 10. And every time I try again, everyone tells me, you can't do it. You can't lose weight. How many times have you tried? You will never be able to do it. And that's another virus I downloaded from people. And that's when I lost my default manufacturer setting of knowing I can do it, of being confident. I'm sure you've all lost your default manufacturer setting. How do I know that? Because as adults, the motivation speaking industry is booming with us. We need people to motivate us constantly. You need constant motivation. That's how I know that we lost our manufacturer settings. Because if you can see children, they don't need motivation. They know they can do things. So today, I ask all of you to go back to that manufacturer setting to reset that button and know that you can do it. And that the next time someone asks you if you're pretty or not, you take out your favorite lipstick, you put it on, and you say, yes, I am pretty. Thank you very much. Over to you, DTM Shah.
Thank you, Toastmaster Mahar. That was a wonderful speech. And now we will have our Zoom master, Toastmaster Binoy, to take the 3 evaluators into the breakout room.
Yeah.
And just please confirm once it's done. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, done.
Thank you. Thank you. And now, whilst the evaluators are putting their thoughts onto paper, we have some wonderful questions that we've got from our very attentive Toastmasters who've been listening to DTM Fursay session. The first one is from Toastmaster Pragnya to DTM Fursay. Her question is, how do we effectively use the 5 minutes during preparation time in an evaluation contest? What do we focus on what do we avoid?
Oh, that's a really good question. One of the first things you want to do is get to the point where you don't have to go up there with a piece of paper. I know, that's really hard. Try to group that information. You've got all these different data points, right? When you're looking at somebody and hearing them, you've got all these data points. What you want to do is put that into some kind of context. Let me give you a quick example. Could I bother somebody? Yeah, Bindu, are you still there? Okay, Bindu, can you hear me? Okay. Hey, listen, can I play a game with you? I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first one you're going to fail. Yeah, that was fun. And then the second time you're going to be perfect. All right? Are you okay to do that? Okay. Okay, here's the first one, okay? I want you to memorize these letters. I'm going to give you a bunch of letters and I want you to memorize it. Ready? Here we go. O, B, U, H, E, I, D, N, I, M, U. Okay, go ahead. Tell them to me.
O, B, H, I, M, D, U. That's it. I couldn't.
Hey, not bad. Not bad, Bindu. Not bad at all. Okay, I'm going to give you the letters again, okay? These are the exact same letters, but I'm going to rearrange it so that you understand it. Here we go. B, I, N, D, U, M, O, H, I, T, E. Please say those letters back to me.
B, I, N, D, U, M, O, H, I, T, E.
Boom! I told you you'd make it perfectly. I told you. We all know why, right? We all know why she nailed it. The fact of the matter is, I could give you the letters to your name and you wouldn't know what they were because they were scrambled, because they didn't make sense, because there was no context to it. So when you are in that room for 5 minutes, you're trying to take those key elements, which you already know, because you had 5 to 7 minutes to write it down, right? Part of the 5 to 7 minutes that you're listening to speaker, you should already be thinking, what, here are the main things I'm going to hit. So your brain is doing 2 things at one time. You're writing everything down and you're already thinking, how am I going to organize this? Then in the 5 minutes, you're putting everything into context. And so when you come out and you give the speech of your life, and the speech of your life is in 3 minutes to inspire this person and teach the audience something, put all this information in some kind of context that they can take with them. I get it. And when the audience takes it all and puts it in the context and put its meaning out of it, you're golden. I hope that made sense. Thank you, Bindu. I appreciate you suffering at my hands twice tonight. Next question, or if I don't know if we have time, that took a long. Sorry about that. Sorry, Madam Moderator.
Sorry. This is from Toastmaster Arya. If you could mention a quick checklist point for evaluating senior Toastmasters, and also how do you prep up for an icebreaker speaker?
Icebreaker speaker, it's going to be 90% positive. If it's really an icebreaker, if it's their first speech, oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's great, it's great, it's great. Think about this. But when you score them, you got to be honest with them on the scoring. This is what they need to work on, and let them know you don't have to be perfect today. You just have to be better one step next time, right? Just be a little bit better next time. And same thing with a veteran speaker. We're trying to help them get just a little bit better, because you might be representing a new audience. And every speaker has to adjust to every single new audience. The children I teach today are different than the children I taught 25 years ago. I can't do the same thing, except for that one little joke that I do. That always works. But listen, you have to keep changing with your audiences. So at the very least, you can give them a different audience and say, I didn't get that reference. We don't have phones that plug into the wall anymore. So you can give them that kind of feedback as a fresh audience member. You can do that honestly. 1 degree. Help people get better by 1 degree. You know what a degree is, right? Not just in terms of direction, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, but at what temperature does water boil? Well, it depends on whether you're speaking in American or Canadian, right? So, does everybody get that joke? Okay, so some of you did. Some of you're like, what? 100 degrees Celsius, water boils. At 99 degrees, you got nothing. At 99 degrees, all you have is hot water. At 100 degrees, you have steam. When you have steam, you have the steam engine. If you have the steam engine, you move mountains, you move oceans. 1 degree. Help that speaker move up 1 degree. Even the veteran speakers, just 1 more degree. That gets them magical. You don't have to move them all the way to a steam engine to 100. You were 1 degree. The next evaluator, 1 degree. Another evaluator, another degree. And then you keep moving on your journey. Move that speaker forward 1 degree. And you've done part of your job. You've done your job. And get them to come back and do some more. Sorry, that's it. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. I don't know whether we have time for 1 more question.
I will keep it short.
Okay. Very good. Beginning and ending of the evaluation speech. How can that be reworked upon or pre-prepared? Pre-prepared. How do you, yeah.
When you have your context, you start off with something great, come back to it, bookend it. Whatever it is that you started with, come back to it. You started with something very strong, and I'm not saying you have to have a sandwich method. I'm just saying whatever great thing that you saw in them, give that image. And then at the end, say, we keep working on this. You're going to take that image to the next level.
Thank you. Thank you, BTL Purse. Timer, do we have time or are we up?
Yeah, we are on time.
Wow.
So we don't have much time.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then with that, I will hand.
First, Shalini, first evaluator is out. If we can find Martin.
Yes. Okay. We have 3 evaluators this evening who will be evaluating Toastmaster Mahar's speech. Our first evaluator this evening is Toastmaster Martin. Toastmaster Martin, yeah. Over to you.
Sorry, DTM Shalini, he is not here yet because of some issues, like they have joined back again. So I'll let you know once he is back.
Oh, okay.
Do we have Kalpana?
All evaluators are in breakout room, so give me a few seconds, please.
Okay, fine.
And regarding the timing for the evaluation, yeah, I need to tell once they're back, it will be 2 minutes, 1.52. So yeah, once they're back, I'll just give them a brief. Thank you.
First evaluator Kalpana is here.
Yes, okay. Okay. We have our first evaluator this evening who will be evaluating Toastmaster Mahar's speech. Evaluator number 1, Toastmaster Kalpana. Toastmaster Kalpana, over to you. Before that, Toastmaster Kalpana, you're on mute, and the timing is 1.52, 1.5, and
I just saw in the chat like it should be 3 minutes. So then I can make it 3 minutes. It's okay.
Okay, fine.
So
okay.
It'll be 2.53.
Done.
Okay.
Okay. You're on mute, Toastmaster Kalpana. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Probably the battery is gone. Okay. Am I good to go? Am I audible? Okay. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and a special salute to my speaker today, Toastmaster Mahar. What a determination you had in your school days that it made me feel, wow, what a lady, what a inspiration that you gave for me. Fantastic. Kudos to you, Toastmaster Mahar. You excelled at your beautiful vocabulary, the way that you expressed the emotional roller coaster that you had in your school days. And every time when you said, I downloaded the virus, so I could connect the analogy you made. The download the virus is something that happened, something bad happened to you from bad teachers, from some of the society members, they gave some impact which put you down. That roller coaster ride that you had, I could easily connect. Also, you took beautiful question and answers. The questions that you started with hooked the entire audience. And I was also there to answer for each and every question. You also asked questions like beautiful, how many of you are beautiful? How many of you can paint? How many of you can dance? All these questions made the entire audience hooked to your story. I would like to recommend a few things. If you could give your speech by standing, you can take your hands and show the gestures as the educator said. It would be much more better. Right now, you can see my hand gestures and the teacher scolded me, and you can use your voice modulations as well. When she scolded me, I was feeling really petrified. Oh, how can I do this? That kind of a voice modulation, you can bring it in. And also the timing part. You can pin the timer and make your PPT presentation, PowerPoint presentation in advance. I'm sure you could do it. Overall, you gave a fantastic, fabulous speech, and you're a star speaker. I'm sure you're a determined speaker now. I'm wishing you more speeches. Good luck to you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Kalpana. Is Toastmaster Martin in? Yes. We have our second evaluator who will be evaluating Toastmaster Mahar's speech. Evaluator number 2, Toastmaster Martin. Toastmaster Martin, over to you.
Mahar, what a wonderful and relatable speech, especially when you show your kindergarten ID, because with that, at least with me, it made me remind me of my childhood. And I think that also your audience enjoy that and reminding their time of kindergarten. You were excellent with facial expressions. They were really good. But I think that your audience will enjoy more if you use the body language. For example, I don't have light and all that because it was a surprise. But for example, with here, we could watch your body language, and it say that 65% of our communication is also body language. I told you, you are excellent with facial expressions and you are really relatable with your audience. But if you use also with your body language, I think that your audience will be more engaged with your speech. You are great, but I'm telling you just a way that you can also increase the message with your audience. I also enjoy the closing when you did with your lipstick, for example, because that's a way of empowerment for women. For example, my grandmother said, "Oh, Martin, I must take a shower and use my lipstick and I look great." And I think that that is good for all women, because I have known also 2 Miss Universe, and they say, "Oh, I don't feel okay right now." But if they are Miss Universe, it means that they were the most beautiful woman in the world. At least they were chosen as the most beautiful woman. And sometimes like they are down and they don't feel like that. And one, for example, from Venezuela, I told her, "Hey, and why now you are using casual clothes?" "Oh, Martin, that's because I must change from good clothes to more or less, because if all the time I'm wearing properly clothes, people is going to get used to how we are getting dressed and we are not going to pay attention." So it was a good way for you to catch the attention of women in this case. But I think that if you also use your body language, because I told you, when you speak about dance, for example, your body, I think that it will be almost dancing when you are speaking. I'm really sure about that, because with your facial expression, it seems like you can dance. That's why I think that you can You can encourage all of us with all your speech if you also use your body language. I think that is going to be more engaging. And that's the challenge that I will do for you, that next time, instead of just being sitting down, to be wake up and do your speech. I think that you are going to be great. And I hope to hear you next time.
Thank you, Toastmaster Martin. We now have our evaluator number 3, who will be evaluating Toastmaster Mahar. Our evaluator number 3 is Toastmaster Zahida. Toastmaster Zahida, over to you.
She hasn't, yes.
Zahida, are you in?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I'm in.
Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. And hello, Mahar. Knowing you from Be Bold group, I know you always come up with different speeches. And just like this time, it was a very different one. In the beginning, you had me really thinking why you selected this topic called back to your manufacturing settings. And it kept me wondering why you actually selected that. But later, when I heard more and more of it coming, when you shared your pictures of 1990, and then you talked about the lips being fat and not coming in the camera, pressing your lips, that's when I actually got to feel that, okay, she's talking about the actual parts, the manufactured parts. And then gradually you moved on, and actually I started creating a checklist. Would you believe that? I made a checklist. Okay, yes, she talked about her lips and she used to press her lips, but then she knew that lips are in fashion, and she, like, again I ticked it, yes. So she is very confident with her lips, tick mark. Then what about the teacher's comment? Again, tick mark. Overweight, can't lose, but she lost, yes, tick mark. So on and so forth, and it was a very enjoyable, I kept us dripping all the way throughout, a very enjoyable session with you. I'm very glad to hear the things you brought out and which are actually happening, and not many of us are accepting it. And mostly people go for a reset, a proper reset, rather than working on their what do you say, hindrances themselves. People actually go to the clinics for a reset, but glad you didn't do that and you stick to your original and work on that original. So you have given us very, very inspiring lines, especially the last one where you mentioned, I'm sure you all lost your default manufacturing settings, but press the reset button, which is your own reset button, and there you go. So very encouraging talk, and a very, very encouraging and motivating speech that you have given today. Very beautifully put together, and that's all I'm going to say. I was glad to hear that. Actually, I was glad to hear something, and I knew from the beginning, right from the beginning, something new is coming from you. So there you go. As always, you're different, and nothing more to say. If everything was good, I liked it all. The way you mentioned, the way you said, and a little glitched or switching on to the photos that you were showing us in the beginning. But other than that, I felt everything was good, and voice modulation was also very well connected with the audience and yourself. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Zahida. That brings us to the end of our evaluators evaluating our speaker this evening. And we would like to hear from distinguished Toastmaster Furse as to how our evaluators performed in their evaluation and where could we have improved in our evaluation. Over to you, DTM Furse.
Thank you. I am going to stand And I do believe that every time we speak, we need to just get used to standing, whether you are the target speaker or the evaluator, as our two of our evaluators did. Thank you, evaluators. Well done. Thank you, target speaker. Great job. Great job on the speech. I can see why sometimes it was so hard to come up with something to tell you to improve on, because Mahar was fantastic. Evaluator number 1, Kalpana. Very nice list of things that you told her. Inspiration, excel, beautiful vocabulary, emotional roller coaster, downloaded the virus, bad teachers, I could easily connect, ask questions, hooked on your story. So many nice things you said. Very well done. I like that. Gonna build her up, and that was terrific. Keep working to transition when we go into the recommendations. It's always hard. I have a hard time how to transition into the recommendations. If you can find a thematic way to do that, it's very nice. If you can master that. And sometimes we all have a way to transition into the recommendations, and then we simply apply it from evaluation to evaluation. Let's see if we can find a smooth way to do that. I like the fact that you talked about the standing, you talked about the great gestures. I like the pivot, but still strong all the way through, meaning you stood up in the middle of it and you said, hey, it would be great if you did that. I do wonder what would happen if you stood up at the beginning. But boy, you stood up at just the right time. I will say that. It'd be 50-50 on what I wanted to do. The impact on the audience might be a way to also give your speaker something else to work on. The impact on her audience and what her different audiences are. What do you think? What are the different audiences that your target speaker will have in her future? Not just for the speech, but in her future. Because the things that she talked about were in a particular context, and I felt like you acknowledged some of that with that emotional roller coaster. So where else can she take her audience with that? Give that example of what she could do as a speaker. I think that would flow with what you were talking about. So thank you, Kalpana. I appreciate it. Very nice ideas. I can see where you really do love your speakers, and they are going to feel really good when they get an evaluation from you. Martin, great energy, great facial expressions. You stood up as well, and you got right to it. Martin, you didn't waste any time. And that was good, because you had a lot to say that was apart from the individual elements of the speech itself. Instead, you went to her in a greater context. Very nice. I mean, I think it was within about 45 seconds that you went straight into the recommendations, and you were already talking about lipstick. Fascinating. Great way to approach the speech, talking about lipstick. At first, I was like, oh no, Martin, I don't know about that. I don't know what they're talking about lipstick. It's going to be good. But then you linked it to your grandmother. Good stroke. Very nice. Very nice. Everybody's got a grandmother. It's a great story. I did wonder if we went a little too far on the stories, because then you went from the grandmother to two Miss Universes. So I get what you were trying to go for. I just wondered if maybe we went a little far, and maybe we need to come back to the speaker sooner. If we need to talk a little bit more about what the speaker should have gotten from the lipstick and from your grandmother, and then where she's going to go in her future. Yeah, because she's going to give, because our speaker's going to give speeches that aren't necessarily always about lipstick, but refocus it back on the speaker a little bit earlier. Almost dancing when you are speaking. What a beautiful phrase, Martin. And I watched the people in the audience. They like that. And I watched our target speaker and just beaming when you talked about that. So Martin, I think you really nailed something there. So I appreciate that even late in your evaluation, you were still able to give like golden nugget, you know. That's really nice, because at that point we start to like, ooh, where's he gonna go? But you were able to bring her back with that. Refocusing back on the speaker is smiling. That's what I noted right here. The speaker is smiling when you were talking to her at that point. And then you mentioned even more engaging. I just feel like if we left the Miss Universe part out and go into the more engaging part, I think you'll have her. That was nice. Zaida, thank you very much for your evaluation. You had a completely different evaluation from the other two. I hope you get a chance to see the recording. Your comment about you always come up with different speeches. That was nice. I also appreciated the fact that you talked about the title. You talked about the title and where she was coming from. In that sense, you did a fantastic job really getting inside the heart of the speaker. Very nice. You talked about the pictures from 1990, the checklist, the confidence with her lips. I understand what you're doing with the tick marks, but by saying tick, 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 I just wondered if that was really giving her the feeling that you wanted to give her. Because I think the idea of tick marks can be interpreted in different ways. And I just wondered if that might need a little bit more explanation, just a little bit more. I liked how you talked about the proper reset and you broadened the explanation of that. You spoke about her on her terms. I thought you did a great job of talking about our speaker in the way that she wanted to speak about herself. Does that make sense? You had a very encouraging way of speaking with her. I thought it was, when you talked about being very beautifully put together, I think that worked, how you combined those words of beauty in with what she was talking about. Towards the end, we started to lose a little bit of focus on the evaluation, right towards the end. And I would make sure that you keep all those little bits and pieces, like you started to add little things on at the end. I think you need to keep that evaluation a little bit more cohesive and find some way to connect the things that she needs to work on, the things that she needs to make her an even better speaker, because she wants to do this professionally. That's what she told me. How can we give her something solid to keep moving forward on? That would be the key. And that will keep the end of your evaluation strong, because I felt like it just started to drift a little bit. Overall, I thought all three evaluators came in with great passion. I thought all three evaluators put the speaker first. You placed the speaker first ahead of the speech. But both the speaker and the speech were magnificent. So thank you, evaluators. Great job. Thank you, speaker. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
And thank you so much for yet again using the art of persuasion and driving that we are good and we need to improve, and we are improving in our evaluation. Thank you so much, DTM, for that wonderful evaluation. If we have time, we have just a couple of questions that we would like to address to DTM Furse. One is from Toastmaster Shifa. Her question is, with several points to evaluate in a 5-minute speech and the nuanced distinctions between point 2 and point 3, for example, how does the evaluator give a comprehensive evaluation to the speaker?
That's an excellent question. There are different parts to the evaluation. There's the oral presentation, and that's a speech. So when you're giving the presentation, give a speech. But you also have all your written notes. You have the written evaluation, and that might contain things that you don't say, because it takes time to put everything into context. So you don't want to give them a list because that's out of context. Give an oral presentation, give a speech that is cohesive and makes sense. Give the written notes to your speaker, and that's going to include a lot of things that you didn't necessarily say. And sometimes you have your other notes, all your scratch notes. And those might not have made it to the transition into the written notes either. So you can give that to the speaker as well. So everything that you wrote and everything that you saw, every single thing that you saw, everything that you heard, those don't necessarily go into the oral evaluation because you just don't have time to do it.
It's a combination of different things that you've got to put together at that point in time. Thank you so much. Yes, and I must say that our audience has not only been very attentive, they have also been very observant, because we have this question from Toastmaster Kanchana, who says, distinguished Toastmaster Furse did his presentation in a very different way, where we could see both the presenter and the slide. How did you do that?
The little slides that kept coming up, that's Prezi, P-R-E-Z.
Okay.
So you create your PowerPoint and then you use Prezi and it sucks it into and then it just starts popping up. Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our question session. And
I have a question.
Yes, sure.
DTM Furse, I have a question. Say, when we give evaluation, sometimes we are directing the speaker. Say, for example, Toastmaster Mahar, you gave this fantastic, something like that. But some mentors, they say that we should not directly say, but we have to use the third person. Toastmaster Mahar, she did this. She delivered an excellent speech, something like that. So how do we address? Should we directly address Toastmaster, the speaker, Toastmaster Mahar, you did this, or we have to address it in the, like a third person? Because the audience also we need to include in our speech. So how do we address?
Yes.
Yes? What is that yes for? I didn't get it.
Yes, you have to address the speaker directly and say, you did a great job and you could do better at this and you'd be wonderful and you're going to be fantastic. Hey, everybody, we can also learn from these great things. So you can speak about her first person directly and you can speak into third. I would use a combination of both every time.
Oh, combination. So that the audience also we are addressing to, at the same time giving an impact that we are giving a positive feedback to
in
the
a
speaker.
regular evaluation, absolutely, because everyone is there to learn. In an evaluation contest, absolutely, because they're all judging you.
True. So there is a difference in evaluation in the meeting, in the Toastmasters meeting, and in the contest.
There is, but I still think you do both. You do both, but they kind of get read in different ways. In the club meeting, you're doing it so that all members move forward, right? And they feel like I'm involved. So when they go home that night, they didn't have a speaking role, and maybe they weren't happy with everything they did, but they learned something from you, so they'll get better. In the evaluation contest, everyone wants to know, how are you going to engage the audience? So again, an evaluation is a speech, and we want to do well and engage our audience.
Thank you, DTM Furse.
You're welcome. Great questions. Great questions.
Thank you. Thank you to our speaker, Toastmaster Mahar, our stars, our evaluators, and the star of the evening, Distinguished Toastmaster Furse, for that wonderful session that we had. I'm sure we as an audience have learned a lot more than we expected that we would. You have persuaded us to delve into ourselves, to look within and to see what we can see, what we can't see so objectively, and to look beyond what we can and present that in a way that is different from what we normally would do. And on that note, with a very big thank you, I sign off and now hand over the screen back to our charming MC, Toastmaster Georgia.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Shalini, for a very educational, practical evaluation demonstration. And that was putting a lot of the theory into practice. Now It makes it real to us. So thank you so much for that. And also for TM Forsy's feedback. How fantastic was that? How useful was that? And also I had to thank TM Martin for his background rooster. It made me feel so much better because I have barking dogs in the background, but a rooster I think really beat me to it. So thank you so much, Toastmaster Martin, for the background noise. And a little note from our speaker once more, Smedley. Now, as a president of Be Bold for Change, it's really important for me to know how can I help my club grow? And things that he suggested were mentoring, but evaluations. He said that these things, when they're done well, they help the club be filled with spark plugs, ready to fire upon request. And I just love that we've had so much spark today that's just sparked us into enthusiasm and inspiration. So I want to thank all our speakers for such a wonderful, inspirational evening. And now, without further ado, before I close, I want to pass on to a woman who's actually arranged this whole event with her team, and she's done this tirelessly. And day and night, we've been texting, and she's been texting people to make this happen tonight. So I want to pass you over to a woman who is originally Armenian. She was born in Lebanon. She lived there until she fell head over heels in love with a boy. She got married. She moved to Dubai in 1998. She joined Toastmasters Club in 2018. And she says Toastmasters changed her life by being among bold and beautiful women who inspire, empower, and enable one another to become their best version of themselves. So when she's not writing in her favorite coffee shop, Mariana spends her time reading, speaking on the stage, of course, and on Zoom, cooking, playing Nerf gun with her son, Enzo, and watching football with her husband, and just doing anything really to keep her out of the gym. So I would like to pass on now to our very lovely Toastmaster, Mariana Misikian. Over to you.
Thank you, Georgia, for that amazing introduction and so late in the night for us. And on that note, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the amazing team that put all this together and made all this possible. Thank you, Toastmaster Fursi. I see now I'm so excited to start going to club meetings because I can see now the evaluations, even the speakers level are gonna hit another level. You brought to us a breath of fresh air. And I am sure everybody is exhilarated and energized and can't wait to start speaking and evaluating. The three notes that I took from your speech today or tonight is, and I'm gonna keep them very close to my heart every time I go to a Toastmaster meeting, write something on page 1 that is not on page 2, make it personal, evaluate the speaker, because you brought all this together by saying that we have to give the speaker a feedback that moves the speaker outside of Toastmasters. And that is the point, because as you said, we don't come to Toastmasters to speak or to deliver speeches or to stand on stages. I think we all come to Toastmasters to connect and to build human connections and to become better humans and for together to become better leaders and better storytellers. So thank you very much, Toastmaster Fursi, for reinforcing and reinstating that message again throughout your session. And I'm sure the Toastmasters that they were here tonight, they're gonna go and they're gonna carve their path with all the tips that you have gave them tonight. Thank you and good morning, actually, Toastmaster Fursi, because it is now 1 a.m. in China and where he is calling from, and I can't keep him much longer than this, so we're gonna close the event as usual, Toastmaster way, by handing out our certificates of appreciation for everybody who played a part in making this event a huge success. And thank you, Benoit. Are the certificates ready to share? So we start by thank you to Toastmaster Georgia. Thank you, Toastmaster Dr. Muniba. Thank you, Toastmaster myself. Thank you, Toastmaster Dr. Abdel Sattar, who couldn't join us today. He's Division I Director. Thank you, Toastmaster Vimmel. Thank you, Toastmaster Arya. Thank you, Toastmaster Shamroz. Thank you, Toastmaster Fursi. Thank you, Toastmaster. I told you it's a big team. We had an army behind this event, and it was duly noted because this was an exponential. This was the biggest event we put together. So thank you so much. Thank you, Toastmaster Shalini. Thank you, Toastmaster Charmaine, to make it possible. Toastmaster Charmaine, she was the one who was in touch with Toastmaster Fursi, and she brought us to our district. And finally, last but not least, Toastmaster Benoy. Thank you, everybody. You can unmute yourself. We can give a big applause to all of us, especially to Toastmaster Fursi, and a big pat on the back for making it here tonight. Whoever is in the UAE, enjoy your long holiday that starts tomorrow. Toastmaster Fursi, good morning. I wish you a very good morning, and we'll see you everybody soon. Thank you, everybody.
Sorry, if anybody can open the camera, we will take a photo also.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Who's awake now? We don't want to keep Toastmaster Fursi longer than possible, so we'll give it a minute. We'll give it a minute for whoever would like to put the camera on, and
Please,
then we can take a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it, Vinoy. Let's take a picture.
Yeah. Done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Good morning, Martin. Good morning, Fursi. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Great job, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.